Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Doc.
Thank you. Good evening. How are you doing today?
Very fine, thank you. And you, sir?
I will give God praise. Thank you very much. So, are we good? It appears we have just about 4 or 5 people here. So are we good now? Are we good to go?
From my end, Doc. Yes.
Yes, sir.
So where are others? What about Oludare?
I'm still here, sir. I just switched devices.
Okay. Yakubu, Abubakar. Hello, Yakubu.
Yes, sir.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Grace,
Good evening, sir.
Olakweju.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine, sir. Happy weekend, sir.
I give God praise. Are you using 2 devices?
No, just one.
Okay. Okay. That is good. So can just someone remind me where we stop? I think we've had 2 classes, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Actually, Doc, for me, this is my first class. So I missed the
Oh, this is
previous
your
one.
first class?
Yes, Doc.
Oh, it's okay. So who else is joining us for the first time? Who else? Who else? Okay, how many of you are supposed to be part of this class? How many of you?
About 8, sir.
Okay. It's all right. So if you were here the last class, can you just tell us where we stopped? Just say something.
Okay, we were checking the format for writing thesis according to the list city format, and we look at what the content of chapter 1 supposed to be, and we stopped at the 1.7, the scope of the study.
All right. So I think with that, we've actually covered everything about chapter 1. But because someone is just joining us today, and I'm going to take you through what we have done before and possibly mention some of the things that I did not mention the last time. So I will mention those things. Then we can continue from there. So going forward, after today, I don't think, or I will not go back again after today. When is your exam? When is your exam?
Tentatively, 12th of February.
Wow, 12th of February. So we really need to move forward, to move fast. So let's see, anywhere we stop, we make sure that our questions will only cover that aspect. But it's important that we understand what we are doing because we are going to write thesis. So this one is not just for us to pass exam. or for us to be able to write exam, but most importantly, for us to write our thesis by ourselves, for us to understand what research is and be able to communicate it. Because some of us are doing PhD, so it means that anytime soon, you will be able to talk to people about your research, how you conducted it, your findings. So if you don't know research, then it will be obvious that you just went through the program and you did not understand what you came to do. So for us not to have that experience, it is important that we pay attention to issues we are going to be raising now. I hope that is clear.
Yes, sir.
It's clear, Doc.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So can you see my slides?
Yes, but not yet in the slide mode, slideshare mode.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how is it?
Yes, it's
How is
better
it?
now.
All right. Thank you very much. So that is Abubakar, right?
This is Oludari.
Okay, Oludare. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So are you the one that's just joining us?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. All right. So just pay attention. So
All right,
this
sir.
is research, methodology, and scientific writing. So we started by looking at the learning objectives that at the end of this class, students will be able to look at. This is lecture 1. That students will be able to look at to understand the meaning of research and the advent of scientific research. And of course, the meaning and importance of business research. Then the components of research writing. Then the chapter 1 proper, so which contain the topic or the title. Then the background to the study, the statement of the research problem, the aim and objective, the research questions, and hypothesis, the scope of the study, significant limitations, and the operation definition of terms. So this first aspect of this lecture supposed to cover all of this. So when we are done with this, we can move on to the second aspect, which is literature review. So for this, we are going to be looking at the concept of research. For instance, when you close your eyes and the word research is mentioned, what readily comes to mind? So we have a lot of pictures that readily comes to mind. When we started this class, a lot of people here mentioned what comes to mind as soon as research, the word research is mentioned. So among other things, we are saying that the concept of research, it denotes to re-investigate what has been previously investigated. To re-investigate what has been previously investigated. And again, it is a structured inquiry that utilizes scientific methodology to solve problems and create new knowledge. To solve problems and create new knowledge. We also said that research begins from the known to the unknown. It begins from the known to the unknown. Then what do we mean by the known? Then it means that you already have an idea of what you are trying to do, but it's just that you don't know the outcome. So, and how do you get to know about or have a bit knowledge of what you are about to do or what you intend to do? It means that you must have done serious literature review, and I'm going to take you through that very shortly, how you can come up with problem formulations or problem identification. So because you already understand the problem you are trying to solve, it becomes so easy for you to develop a research topic. So first of all, you must learn how to develop a research topic. But before we do that, we must go through a number of literature to understand what is happening in that terrain, to know what the problem really is. So that is why we are saying, because you will have to go through some literature to know what is available, then research actually begins from the known to the unknown. So the known is what you can find in the literature, and the unknown is the problem you're trying to solve and how you are able to solve it. So for now, we don't know what the problem is, but until you have to go through literature to develop a good understanding of what you are trying to achieve. Also, the primary purpose of research is to contribute to knowledge, to break new ground, and to discover new possibilities. To break new ground and to discover new possibilities. We discussed all of this. Then scientifically, traditionally, we said that the concept of research has been, but the word scientific was not identified with the concept of research in the past, because those people who were actually in charge of the organizations or who were in position to take decisions were actually taking such decisions based on experience or personal experience, based on received wisdom, maybe as a traditional person, or maybe someone that has ability to see to the unknown, to the divinity. So then such people were taking decisions based on personal experience, based on perceived wisdom, and of course, based on traditions and authority. And such approaches or such methods often leads to errors. And those errors include inaccurate observation, overgeneralization, selective observation, subjectivity, and of course, lack of knowledge, lack of logic. So because those wisdom, in quotes, were not scientific in approach, they were full of errors, which include inaccurate observation, as I've said, overgeneralizations, selective observations. What you want to see is what you see. And of course, subjectivity and lack of logic. And of course, like as I said, all of these, people cannot make decisions on this. People cannot run organizations based on this. And there was need to look beyond the traditional way of making a decision to what we call the scientific way. So the scientific way basically has to do research, scientific research. So the question is, what is scientific research? Number one, it is controlled. Now, what is controlled? Ability to know exactly what you want to do, beyond which you are not interested. Ability to define your boundary. Ability to determine the variables that you want to address. And nobody should drag you outside such variables. We call that controlled. And in most cases, we call that the concept of control implies presumed cause and effect, which we can describe as dependent and independent variable. Presumed cause and effect. For instance, you want to find out why employees are not committed or are no longer engaged in organizations. So that is the problem you want to solve, that they are not engaged. They now come, they bring in nonchalant attitude to work, and they are not committed to work. So you may begin to look at, oh, could it be that these people are not adequately motivated? So I can say I want to carry out a research on motivations and employee engagement. So that is the boundary I've defined for myself, and no one should take me off that boundary. So any scientific research must be able to determine the boundaries within, beyond which you are not interested. And again, we also have here that anything that is regarded as scientific research must be rigorous. So the work must be very, very rigorous. In other words, the procedure followed to find answers to the questions must be relevant, appropriate, and justified. So, because you are going to take a decision based on your findings, so your decisions must have gone through something that we call a rigorous procedures. So, which must be relevant, appropriate, and justified. Then again, we talk about anything that is regarded or seen as scientific research must be systematic in nature. Must be systematic in nature. What is systematic? It means that the process has to be done from laid videos. So it must not be done haphazardly. It must not be done haphazardly. So meaning that it has laying down procedures that you have to follow. We call it logical sequence. So each step must follow the other. For instance, you formulate your topic, then you write your background, you decide, you write the statement of problem, you formulate hypotheses, objectives, you formulate research questions, you formulate hypotheses, then you decide the methodology, you review your literature, then you go to field, you collect data, you analyze, then you report your findings, you draw conclusions, and then recommendation. You can see that there is laid down procedure that you have to follow. And that is what makes it scientific. And that is why it is called scientific research. Then again, it must be valid and reliable. And we call that validity and reliability. What is validity? Validity is the suitability of the instrument to the research. So suitability simply means that the research instrument is compatible with the kind of research you want to carry out. For instance, you want to carry out a research that has to do with the aged, those that are old, the elderly. It would be wrong for you to tell us that you use a questionnaire when most of them can no longer read anymore, or maybe they cannot see and they are aged. So now it is wrong for you to say that you have used a particular instrument that is not compatible with that kind of research. Hence, you have to look for an instrument that is compatible with the kind of research you want to carry out. So validity has to do with the suitability of research instruments to that particular research. So at the end of the day, we should be able to look at the instrument you want to use and see whether they pass the test of validity. Then we also talk about the reliability. It has to do with the repeatability of the research instrument or the tool to have the same result anytime you use it, the repeatability. So if you repeat it in London, you're likely to have the same result on that same methodology. If you use that in Nigeria using the same methodology, you're likely to have the same result. I will call that the reliability. Then we talk about the empirical. Now, the empirical means that something you have to carry out from primary data to generate primary data. Primary data simply means that you are in touch with the subjects, the people you want to carry out the research on. You actually went there, you interacted with them, and you were able to get first-hand information from them. And that is what we call research that is evidence-based. Research that is evidence-based. So you need to take note of all of these ingredients that define scientific research. And finally, we talk about critical. That means it must be free from error. It must be free from both grammatical error, typographical error, and whatever possible error your research has to be free from it for anybody to believe in that report. For anybody to believe in that report, it must be free from any form of error. Are we thinking together?
Yes, Doc, we're following you.
All right, thank you. Now, what then is business research? Because some of us are not really interested in doing PhD, maybe for DBA and all that. So you are interested in how this research can be applied to business world. So it is the secret weapon for companies aiming to succeed in a competitive environment. Now, it is the systematic process of gathering, analyzing, and interpreting data to take informed decisions or to solve organizational problems. So the primary purpose of conducting business research is to generate knowledge that is used to improve your business performance. And that is what we call business intelligence. Having said that, very quickly, we were able to look at what we call beginning a research. Beginning a research. So when you want to begin a research, I would like you to pay attention to this particular aspect of this study or this lecture. When you want to start a research work, first of all, you must identify a problem. You call that problem identification or formulation. You must identify problem. I have not discussed this aspect before, so I decided to talk about it today. Now, the problem identification is one of the most important aspects of your research work. Problem identification. Now, how do we do that? How do we identify a research problem? So if you have an idea for a research topic, you should check to see if anyone else has done it before or has carried out that research before you. So you must be able to carry out that findings, and I will tell you how to do that. Because for you to formulate a research problem, you must have an idea. So that idea, you need to test it to check if someone else has done something very, very similar. You need to check that. Now, Google Scholar or Scopus or Science Direct or Google or GS4 and the traditional Google search can help you to do that. All you need to do, just type that idea, the way it comes to your mind, just put it. Can you hear me?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
You are fading from this end. I don't know whether it's only me.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right, sorry about that. So I said before you can begin any research, there's need for you to identify the problem you want to solve. And that problem begins from a conceived idea. There's something that will just come to your mind that you want to address. So I said for you to know if that idea can actually form a problem, you need to test it out. You need to check if somebody has done something very similar or very close. And I said, just type such idea in Google or Google Scholar or Scopus or Science Direct or JSTOR or Google JSTOR and traditional Google search. And when you do that, you are likely to see some work that has been done in that area. You are likely to see something that someone has conducted in that area. So if the research is similar to what you propose to do, you can also see which other researcher have actually based their research on that article. By clicking on cited by. Let me explain that. For instance, you go to Google Scholar, you just type that your idea there, then it will just show you some work that other people have done that are very related. Then when you click on that work, then you will see a link under it. Since you are still online, you will see a link under it that shows people who have cited that work. So if you are not too comfortable with that one, you can click on any of those links around that topic, then you will see other people who have cited it. So you can click on cited by. So the link under the article, they are always there, so that you will see what other people have done around that your idea. So by looking at these articles, you might be inspired to find a new topic or a new angle on the topic. You might be able to refine your ideas and see what you can do. Now that you have an idea that is novel, that you have an idea doesn't mean that the idea is novel. That now that you see an idea does not mean that the idea is novel. And we encourage you to carry out a research on a very novel area. Now, how do you achieve that? So if you do not find any article that are very similar to that your planned topic, then you probably have a novel idea. You probably have a novel idea if you don't have so many people who have done something around that area. It's a signal or it's a pointer that your thinking is novel, that your thinking is novel. But however, but the fact that your idea is novel does not necessarily mean that it is a good idea and that the idea is relevant. That idea is scarce, is not common, does not mean that it's relevant. So another test of your idea is to check for the relevance. Is to check for the relevance. As we have checked for the novelty, we need to also check for the relevance. And how do we achieve that? Now, is the idea relevant? Is the idea relevant? So, besides being novel, you must also have a clear feeling that your topic is relevant for not just you, that is the researcher, but to people around, to the community where you want to carry out that research. So you can clarify this by using what we call exploratory literature search. Explorative means that just type that topic again, the way you have seen it. You can put it back on Google to check how many people have actually researched on it, to see how many people have researched on it. So this will hopefully bring you closer to a concrete description and argument of the aim of this thesis and why it is worth searching. Now, let's assume that you check it and you discover that a lot of people have researched on it. Then you need to now check how relevant it is to the area where you want to focus. For instance, geographical or sectorial sector. Let's say the geographical area like Southwest Nigeria, you check if that work has been conducted in that area and how will that benefit the people of that particular region. Or maybe it's a sectorial issue you are looking at. Maybe other literature you have seen so far have actually looked at other areas that are different from the areas you want to look at. We begin to look at what we call the sectorial scope. Maybe a lot of studies are focused on maybe service industry and your own based on manufacturing industry. Or a number of work has been done considering the educational sector, but not much has been done in the area of transport or tourism. So it depends on what you are looking at and how relevant is this your study to that area. The moment you are able to pass through all of these tests, then your topic is going to be novel, is going to be relevant. And that the topic is relevant, you also need to find out if it's feasible, because you are going to be given a particular period of time to conclude your work, to carry out your work. Then you need to check, can I finish this work within this period? What I intend to do, will I be able to finish it before I conclude my thesis? So once you have an idea for your research topic that appears to be novel and appears to be relevant, then you should then consider whether it is feasible. You should then consider whether it is feasible. So for instance, will you be able to perform the research and write your thesis before the deadline? Now, if your thesis will be based on empirical research that require you administering questionnaire, are you sure you'll be able to do that considering the time frame that you have? So you need to consider that, and that will also help you, because no matter the novelty of your work, no matter the feasibility of your work, and no matter the relevance of your work, and if your work, you cannot finish it within that period that you have been asked to conclude your program, then the purpose is defeated. Based on that, we now move. Having gone through all of this process, you are likely to have what we call a researchable topic. You are likely to have what we call a researchable topic. Now, the question is, what is a researchable topic? First, is a sentence that envelopes the research problem, that reveals the researcher's focus and gives direction to the entire thesis. Now, why am I so sure? Because you have tested the novelty, you have tested the relevance, you have tested the feasibility, and you have also tested the novelty. Yeah. So now a good research topic, it consists of just one sentence and should make it clear to everyone what research problem you aim to address and to whom and where it is relevant. To whom and where it is relevant. So if you have not passed through all of those tests, you are likely not to have a researchable topic. But if you have taken your idea through all of those processes, then you are likely to have a researchable topic. Are we still together, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, so a good topic is specific
Yes, sir.
and if feasible. Yes, you want to say something? Somebody want to say something?
Not from this end, sir.
All right. So a good topic is specific and feasible within the time frame. A well-chosen topic lays the foundation for a successful thesis experience. So if you have gone through all of those processes that we have mentioned earlier, you're likely to have a researchable topic. And now one other thing that defines a researchable topic is that it contains variable, usually independent and dependent variable, which further divided into measurable constructs. So it may also contain supporting variables such as antecedent, moderating, and mediating variables. So I'm going to throw more light on all of these as we make progress. Do you have any questions so far, please?
None from my end, though.
All right. So what about Olundari?
Yes, I just responded to you now. None from
Okay,
my
you are
end.
the one joining us for the first time, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I hope you are catching it now.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you. All right. Now, we talk about a researchable topic also. It is an iterative process. I think there's an error here to write a problem formulation. So you might switch many times between checking the literature to see if your idea is relevant and refining the problem formulations back to searching the literature again with new ideas. So the reason for this is that it takes a long time to develop a precise and specific problem formulations. But as Albert Einstein rightly wrote, and I quote, "It is necessary to define your problem before any work can be launched." It is necessary to define your problem before any work can be. So now let's look at one of the researchable topics we have here as example. Now you can see digital marketing and performance of small business in Nigeria. Digital marketing and performance of small business in Nigeria. So the problem here, the problem variable is the performance of small business in Nigeria. So, and the independent variable, which is the presumed cost, is digital marketing and as relates to performance of small business in Nigeria. So the main variable here, independent variable, which is presumed cost, digital marketing. The independent variable, that is independent variable, is digital marketing, while the dependent variable, which is the presumed effect, is performance of small business in Nigeria. So you must learn how to differentiate between dependent and independent variable. Then you must be able to have what we call indicators, sub-variables, or measurements. Now, if you look at that example that we gave, the independent variable, we talk about the digital marketing. Now, what are the measurements of digital marketing? Number one, we have the social media marketing, we have the search engine optimization, we have the content marketing, we have the email marketing, we have the online advertising. All these can describe digital marketing. Do we have problem with this? Or is it clear?
Clear, sir.
Clear from my end, sir.
All right. So why the dependent variable, which is the performance, can be measured in terms of the business. Oh, this is wrong. We can look at the performance can be in terms of profits, in terms of market share. I think in terms of customer satisfaction. So you may ignore this. I think this is another example I used before, and I did not remember to change the variables that define performance. So performance here may come in form of market share, may come in form of profitability or customer satisfactions and customer loyalty. All these can form the indicators for market share, not the business idea. Now, there is another example here, which I've given before: student entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurial implementation intention in Nigeria University. So here, the independent variable is the presumed cost, which is student entrepreneurship education, while the dependent variable is the presumed effect, which is implementation intention. Now, what then are the sub variables? Yeah, I think this is where I actually mixed it up before. So the independent variable here, which is student entrepreneurship education, include curriculum content, entrepreneurship pedagogy, educators' competence, or teaching method. Now, while the dependent variable, which is entrepreneurial implementation intention, include business idea generation, opportunity identification, and business plan writing. These are measurable indicators, and we call them prosins that you can use to explain your dependent and independent variable. It's just like you are referring to a particular organization. Inside that organization, we have various departments. And that is what we have just done here. The reason is because those are the things you are going to focus on where you want to generate your objectives. You want to generate your hypothesis. You want to generate your research questions. So you will not be mentioning performance, rather indicators of performance will now be used. You will not be talking about entrepreneurial implementation intention like that, but the indicators is what you will now be engaging. And that is the beauty of having your indicators measured. Does that make sense at all?
Yes, sir.
So during your exam,
Yes, sir.
I will ask you to formulate a researchable topic and how to generate a novel idea, how to generate a relevant idea, and how to generate a feasible idea. So, and how the idea can be.
Hello, Doc. I think sometimes
Hello,
you
sir.
move your mouth away from your mouthpiece, so we don't get to hear you.
Okay, thank you. Always remind me. And I
Okay.
think it's my network because I'm not using any mouthpiece at all. I'm using my laptop directly. So I guess it's the network.
Oh, okay, sir.
Yes, maybe the network or the speakers. That is my laptop speakers, because people have always been saying that. And I try as much as possible to speak up. And in fact, if you're around where I am now, even people outside, they can hear me because I'm actually shouting. So I guess it's the speaker. So, but anytime you are no longer hearing me, please call my attention to it.
Okay, sir.
So I was talking about, can you remind me what you heard from me before you couldn't hear again? Can you just tell me what I said?
I think the last thing I heard was around using the sub variables for your discussion as against speaking the dependent.
Yes. So yes, what I was saying is that it's important you have indicators. Just try as much as possible to ensure that every of your research topic you must be able to break it down into indicators, because your specific objective has to be built around your indicators. Your specific research hypothesis must be built around your indicators. Your research questions must be built around your indicator. And if you don't have that, you are likely not to have good literature review. You maybe review literatures that are not relevant to your study. So reviewing those indicators makes your work relevant and all your review of literature relevant to the topic. And I've seen a situation whereby people just review things that are not in any way related or relevant to their topic, just because they want to fill up the gap. So when your external examiner pick up your thesis, he's going to look at the flow from your topic to the objective, to the hypothesis, to the questionnaire, and down to literature review, and see how all of these things are connected. So a situation where you don't even have indicators, you are likely to be reviewed things that are not relevant to your study. Does that make sense at all?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, we also have another topic here: marketing orientation, trade dynamics, and performance of cocoa exporters in Southwest Nigeria. So the independent variable here, which is the presumed cause, is marketing orientation. The dependent variable here, which is the presumed effect, is performance of cocoa exporters in Southwest Nigeria. Why the moderative variable? Because here now I've introduced a moderative variable or a mediative variable. Now, the mediating here, or the moderating, I'm going to explain the difference between moderating and mediating very shortly. But just know that here we now have three categories of variable: independent, dependent, and either moderating or mediating. We are going to look at that. Now, for the independent variable, we have the marketing orientation is measured by market entry orientation, compliance orientation, product differentiation orientation, research and innovation orientation. Now, what are the dependent variable, which is the performance of cocoa exporters indicators? You talk about market share, export volume, and customer satisfaction. All these are direct measurement of performance of cocoa exporters. Then we now look at what we call the either moderating or mediating. Now we have the trade dynamics, which are measured by, or is measured by, government regulatory dynamics, foreign exchange dynamics, demand and supply dynamics. These are the dynamics that will directly or indirectly affect the relationship between market orientation and the performance of exporters. Now, what makes it moderating? It is moderating when the relationship can work without a third intervention. No, sorry, it is moderating when the two relationship can work, whether there is a third variable or not, it can work. Yes, I think I'm right. Without any intervention, it can work. So if you not have any intervention, it can only moderate. It does not affect the relationship that already exists. But the situation whereby the two dependent and independent cannot work except there is a third intervention, that third intervention is called mediating. It's called mediating. It's just like where two parties are having conflicts and they cannot resolve it, and you bring in a third party and that third party is able to resolve it, we call it mediating. So a situation whereby two parties can actually resolve their conflict without anybody coming, if you eventually bring in someone, that person can just act as a moderating variable. So not mediating. I think that is clear. Does that make sense at all?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now look at the diagram here. Moderating, you can see that independent and dependent variable can relate directly. So if this one is coming at the middle, it can only make it stronger, or it may not even have any relationship on this, any effect on the relationship. So when it happens like this, it's called moderating. But when the direct relationship may not work, except it has to first of all relate to the mediator, and the mediator relate to the outcome, then you call that mediating. You call that mediating. Does that make sense at all?
Yes, Doc.
So the independent and dependent variable argument. Now, most times people have argued that whatever you consider as independent variable remain independent variable for life. And whatever you consider as the dependent variable also remain dependent variable for life. But I am saying that it is not true that the researcher actually determine which one he can consider either dependent and independent variable. So the independent variable explain the outcome of the dependent variable. It is also called the explanatory variable. However, both dependent and independent variables are not absolute. This means that both dependent and independent variables are subject to change in different situations. Their placement, therefore, is controllable by the researcher. Their placement, therefore, is controllable by the researcher. So, for instance, if I want to give example, let me use this example, insecurity and poverty. So I can say insecurity is what brings about poverty. Yes, if I carry out a research, I may be correct, but someone said else can also carry out a research and say poverty is what leads to insecurity. So in that way, the poverty become independent variable and the insecurity become a dependent variable. But a situation whereby you say, oh, insecurity brings about poverty, the insecurity is independent variable, then the poverty becomes the dependent variable. So now the what you consider is depends on the problem you are trying to solve. The problem variable at any point in time remain the dependent variable, which is always after the and, A-N-D. So if you check all the example we have been giving, we say this and this. So the last aspect of it is called dependent variable. I hope that is clear.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions so far? Any questions so far?
No, sir.
I
We're
think
good, sir.
we are clear from.
All right. You are clear, right?
Yes, sir.
So for the purpose of writing your thesis at Lee City University, you have to follow this format. And this is where we stop, the last one. That is background to the study, which is always 1.1. Statement of the problem, which is 1.2. The aim and objective of the study, which is 1.3. Research questions, hypothesis, significance of the study, scope of the study, limitation to the study, definition of terms. And of course, we don't have references. This is a mistake. We have head notes. We have head notes. Please take note of that. We have head notes. Now we're going to be picking this one after the other to address them. Now for the background to the study. The background to the study, this subcomponent is meant to grab your reader's attention. It's meant to grab your reader's attention. Now, the motivation for the study must be described using compelling statements or words. So there must be sufficient background view for readers to understand where your study is coming from. So you may begin this aspect by focusing on the dependent variable, which is the problem variable. And in most cases, you take it from the global perspective to the national perspective, to the regional perspective, and to the local perspective. Now, at this point, it is unnecessary to cite every article. A careful selection of few pertinent studies is actually sufficient. Not that every sentence you are citing, even from the background. Now, look at example here. We have a good example here. We have globally, graduate unemployment has persistently been on a steady increase. It is a common thread in many countries to find graduates of universities not able to secure jobs several years after they have graduated. In view of this global phenomenon, studies in the developed country as well as in the developing countries have advocated for a refocus of educational system towards acquisition of vocational and technical skills. So we can now cite here. Now, as the challenge of graduate unemployment raises great concern, graduates in Nigeria universities are not left out. Despite the enormous endowment of human and capital and natural resources in the country, a few localized studies conducted within the last few years have actually affirmed this concern. This research, therefore, explored the extent to which exposure to entrepreneurship education affects student entrepreneurial intentions in Nigeria university. So you can prepare or write your background in this manner. Do you have any question here at all? Do we have any question here at all?
Doc, just to clarify, it's not to be in bullet format, but this is just for the purpose of the class, right?
This is just for the purpose of our class here.
Noted.
You put your writing in paragraph, not in bullet point. In paragraph. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
We can no longer hear you, Doc.
I said, does that make sense? I said, we put our write-up in paragraph, not in bullet points. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. We can hear you now.
All right. Now we move on to the 1.2, which is the statement of problem. Now, the research problem is different from a social problem. Now, for you to be able to write the statement of problem very well, you must be able to identify what we call the lacuna, the gap in literature. The gap in literature. You use the gap to establish your statement of problem. Now, what do we call the gap? So the gap simply explains what other people have not been able to do that you are trying to achieve. What other people have not been able to achieve that your study is trying to achieve. We call that gap. Now, to begin with, you must begin to look at the problem and see what is actually happening in that environment. Then, having established that, then you can tell us that even though this is going on, a lot of studies have looked at it from this perspective, but nobody has been able to look at it from this perspective that you are trying to look at. Then you can conclude it by saying it is against this background that this your study want to examine the role of entrepreneurship education and how it affects entrepreneurial implementation intention. Now, let me give you a formula that you can use to write your statement of problem. You can begin with what I call the ideal situation. An ideal situation. What is ideal situation? The situation that is known, all things being equal. If everything is okay, this is what we are expected to see. But if something is happening to the situation, then we are likely to have a deviation or a variation from the norm, from the normal thing. Then you cannot tell us that what is known about the current situation. What is known about the current situation, what people have said about the current situation, then you can conclude it by telling us, even though they have said this about the current situation, but they have not been able to address it properly. And that is why this study is set out to look at the how to provide solution to the problem. Now, let me give you an example. Entrepreneurship education in Nigeria University aim at inculcating entrepreneurial skills and attitude in students. That is an ideal situation. That is an ideal situation. Now, despite the introduction of entrepreneurship education as a compulsory course in Nigeria universities, the aspiration for white-collar jobs and graduate unemployment has persistently been on the increase. That is the current situation. Now, you can trace that current situation with some citation. You can now say this implies that the rising rate of graduate unemployment in Nigeria may be a pointer to the fact that entrepreneurship programs in Nigeria University do not motivate students to initiate actions regarding entrepreneurial implementation. Still, the current situation. Now, research such as this have advocated a revision of entrepreneurship curriculum content in the university to bridge the gap between theory and practice. Now, still talking about the current situation. However, there is a need to ascertain whether entrepreneurship curriculum content stimulates students' critical thinking and idea generation in Nigeria University. What you intend to do to change the situation. And this is how XOP should be written. So in exam, if I'm asking you to write a brief XOP of the topic you have identified or you have formulated, I expect to see an ideal situation, the current situation, and what you need to do now to address the current situation. Would that be too much for you when you are asked to do that? Would that be too much?
From my end, not too much though.
Thank you. So in exam, you will be asked to identify the researchable topic, which I've mentioned to you. Then you formulate the, you identify the dependent and independent. Then you are going to formulate indicators, maybe 3 or 4 for each. Then, and we are also going to ask you to write a brief background to that study. Now, the aim and objective of the study. Or because you have been able to break your indicators, you have been able to measure it into sub-indicators or variables, it's not going to be difficult for you to form your objective. It's not going to be difficult for you to form your specific objective. So how do we do that? While there is only one general aim, there are always more than one specific objective extracted from the general aim. So research objectives are statements of what the researcher intends to do. What the researcher intends to do. So the objective flow directly from the problem. So they communicate what the researcher plans to do. They communicate what the researcher plans to do. So specific objectives break the aim of the research into specific but related parts. Now let's look at example. The study aimed to examine the effect of entrepreneurship education on entrepreneurial intention of students in Nigeria University. Then that is the how to state your aim that capture the title of your thesis. The aim always capture the title of your thesis. You can now say more specifically, the study attempted to, 1, ascertain the effect of entrepreneurship curriculum, which is an indicator under the entrepreneurship education, on student business idea generation. Again, to examine the extent to which entrepreneurship pedagogy, which is an indicator on student entrepreneurship education and how it affects students' identification of business opportunity, which is also an indicator of the dependent variable, which has to do with implementation intention. Now, to evaluate the role of teaching method and indicators under the independent variable on student interest and business startup and indicators on the dependent variable. So this is how I expect to see the interplay or the connection between the dependent and independent variable when you engage their indicators properly. Does that make sense at all?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Doc, just to ask, I hope we'll have your this slide after the class.
You like the slide?
It will help for our reading, bro.
Yes, sir. We like the slide, sir.
Is it the slide you want, or I should send notes to you? I have notes. I will send notes to you. Which one do you want?
I feel the note is going to be more detailed.
Yes.
So the note is fine for me. I don't know. But Doc, you can send both, sir.
Why should I send both? Choose one now.
Note, sir.
Okay, so I think a couple of people want notes. So yes, Doc, we'll go for notes.
Note, sir.
Is that what?
We'll go for the notes.
Good. That's good. So now let's move on. We talk about the hypothesis. Here at DCC University, we use what we call non-hypothesis. That is N-U-L-L, null hypothesis. What is null? The negative aspect of it. While the positive aspect is called the alternate hypothesis. So we don't bother to state the truth. Why? Because eventually one will be rejected and one will be accepted. So if the non-hypothesis is rejected, Then the alternate, which you did not state, but impliedly is therefore accepted. So at Licity, we use non-hypothesis. Non-hypothesis. So we see, and you have to also engage those indicators to form your non-hypothesis. Look at the example here. The following hypotheses stated in non-form were tested in this study. Number one, entrepreneurship curriculum content do not have significant impact on student business idea generation. So if eventually we realize that it has, then the non-hypothesis is rejected. The alternate hypothesis, which we did not state before, is therefore accepted. So the entrepreneurship pedagogy do not significantly affect students' identification of business opportunities. Teaching method in entrepreneurship do not significantly stimulate student interest and business startup. Educators' competence do not significantly impact on students' commitment to business plan writing. So this is how we expect you to formulate your hypothesis. Any question on this? So that we'll move on.
It's cleared up. We can move on to that.
All right. So in exam, you may also be asked to state at least 3 to 4 hypotheses. Now let's move on to significance of the study. You may also be asked to write a brief significance of the study. So here you are to tell us the elements that tend to benefit from this your study. For instance, if this study is focusing on the education as a sector, then we expect some key stakeholders in that sector to benefit from this study. And who are the key stakeholders in education? Number one, we talk about the lecturers, we talk about the management of universities, the owners of universities, the policy makers, even the government will benefit. Then, of course, the researcher will benefit from these studies. And of course, you tell us how they will benefit from the study. That is what we call the significance of this study. Just ability to tell us the stakeholders that will benefit from this study. Now, look at the example here. There should be an opening statement stating the above listed aspects before discussing them individually. Now, look at this. So this study is significant to the following stakeholders. One, policymakers. This study is important to policymakers and stakeholders in Nigeria regarding the design of an entrepreneurship curriculum that can enhance the development of viable business ideas by students of Nigeria universities. Again, university management, the result of this study will provide a guide for university management, formulations, and implementation of policies. So this is how you write your significance of the study. Now, then the scope. The scope. Do you have any question on the significance before we move to the scope?
No, Doc.
All right. So in exam, if I ask you to write the scope using your own topic, I'm sure you won't have problem with that. So the scope. Now the scope can be grouped into methodological scope, the geographical scope, the sectorial scope, and the contextual scope. You are to address all of these aspects. So you can see the geographical scope. Where is the study taking place? For instance, Ogun State or Southwest Nigeria. Then, of course, the population sample, you also tell us methodology, you tell us the method you are using. Then that is how you define your scope. Then you can see the geographical scope here. The study focused on Southwest Nigeria because it is considered to be the hub of university education in Nigeria. Now, one thing that is very important about stating your scope is not just enough for you to state your scope, but you must justify why that scope is relevant in your study. Otherwise, then the question about why not another location will come to mind. So you must be able to tell us why this study is best conducted in this particular environment. Are we still together?
Yes, sir.
Any question?
No,
Any
sir.
questions?
No, sir.
Then this limitation to the study, we always advise that after you have finished the entire work, it becomes relevant to tell us what are the challenges you encounter in the field work. So while you are just starting your chapter 1, it is not advisable to present your limitations, because at this point, you really don't have any limitation because you've not gone to field, you've not encountered any serious challenge, or there's no need for you to come here and be telling us what you think will be the problem. Rather, you should tell us what the problems are after you have gone to field and you are back. Does that make sense at all?
Yes, sir.
And of course, the definition of terms, all the key statements in your work, you need to tell us what they stand for. For instance, we're talking about digital marketing and performance of XME and all that. So you tell us the meaning of digital marketing and all the indicators we use to measure the digital marketing. So tell us what they stand for. Then concerning the performance, tell us the performance, what it is, and the indicators to measure the performance as you have them in your work, not as they are in your dictionary or in the social media, but what you consider them to be is what we expect in this your work. Now, for the purpose of exam, you may be asked to write brief background of the statement problem, formulate the main objective of the study, state clearly the dependent and independent variable, state indicators of the selected independent variable, state 3 indicators of the selected dependent variable. Thank you, and God bless you.
Doc, please, can you go back by one slide, the one you had the question?
We want to copy questions.
Now, just you were very fast with that one, Doc.
You are interested in the questions. All right. All right. We are copy.
Okay. Thank you, sir, from my end.
All right. So any question? This is where we stop tonight. I think by next one, we will be looking at chapter 2 and chapter 3. And I will allow you to go and write exam. Any question, Grace?
No question from my hand, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Do you understand everything?
Yes, I do, sir.
All right. So if you have any challenge, you can chat me up. I sincerely wish you all the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
And
sir.
good night.
Thank
Good
you
night,
very
sir.
much. Good night, sir. Thank you, everyone. Good night.